Drink up, Bumpy, before it gets cold. Raymond's voice, too damn smooth, like silk before the blade. Bumpy Johnson eyed the wine. Chateau Margaux 37, Ray Ray's prized vintage. 30 years of friendship, now reduced to this poisoned chalice. The Italians grinned, vultures anticipating a feast. But they didn't know Bumpy, didn't know the years he'd spent sniffing out rats, the favors he'd called in, the pieces he'd moved on the board while they were still setting up their cheap trap. He knew about the 30 grand. He knew about Ray Ray's mother's new fur coat. And he knew about the switch. One sip and Ray Ray's world would dissolve. They thought they were buying death. Instead, they were about to pay a king's ransom for a lesson in Harlem justice, a lesson they wouldn't live to repeat. The room was watching. The Italians were smiling, and Bumpy Johnson, the most dangerous man in Harlem, did the last thing anyone expected. He laughed. October 12th, 1945. Small's Paradise. Nightclub, Harlem. The backroom was thick with cigar smoke and the smell of expensive cologne mixed with cheaper whiskey. 20 men sat around a table that was too small for the egos it held. Numbers runners, policy bankers, a crooked police sergeant, 3 made men from the Genovese family who'd driven up from Little Italy specifically for this meeting, and Raymond Ray Coleman, Bumpy's oldest friend, his most trusted lieutenant, the man who'd taken a knife in Sing to protect Bumpy back in 1936, the man who just agreed to poison his wine for 30,000. The back room of Small's Paradise wasn't just any spot in Harlem. It was where power lived, where deals were made, where territories were carved up like Sunday dinner. The walls were deep red, the lighting low, the music from the main room filtered through like a distant heartbeat. Duke Ellington's orchestra had played here. Billie Holiday had sung here. And tonight, someone was going to die here. Bumpy had felt it the moment he walked in. The smiles were too bright, the handshakes too firm. Ray Ray had been too quick with the wine, too eager to pour, too insistent that Bumpy sit at the head of the table. The Italians weren't even pretending anymore. Sal Benedetto, a Genovese enforcer with a scar that ran from his eye to his jaw, sat in the corner, cleaning his fingernails with a knife, not hiding it, making sure Bumpy saw it. This was supposed to be a peace meeting. The Italians wanted to expand their heroin trade into Harlem. Bumpy had said no. The Italians didn't take no for an answer, so they'd bought themselves a traitor. And Ray Coleman, the man Bumpy had pulled out of poverty, the man whose sister Bumpy had saved from an abusive husband, the man who knew where Bumpy lived, where his money was hidden, where his mother went to church every Sunday morning, had sold him out. The toast was Ray Ray's idea. "Gentlemen," he said, standing up with his glass raised, "to new partnerships, to prosperity, to the future of Harlem." Everyone raised their glasses, even the Italians, who didn't give a damn about Harlem's future, but loved watching a man drink his own death. Bumpy's glass sat untouched in front of him. Ray Ray's smile faltered just for a second, just long enough for Bumpy to see it. "You not drinking, Bump?" Ray Ray asked, trying to keep his voice light, casual, like old times. Bumpy looked at him. Really looked at him. Saw the sweat on Ray Ray's upper lip that had nothing to do with the heat. Saw the way his eyes kept flicking to Sal Benedetto in the corner. Saw the way his hand trembled just slightly as he held his own glass. "I'm savoring the moment," Bumpy said quietly. The room went silent, the kind of silence that happens when everyone knows something terrible is about to occur, but nobody knows exactly what. Ray Ray laughed, but it sounded wrong. Hollow. "What moment?" "It's just wine, brother." "Brother," Bumpy repeated, letting the word hang in the air like smoke. "Yeah, brother." He picked up the wine glass, held it up to the light. The red wine caught the glow from the overhead lamp, deep and dark as blood. "This is good wine, Ray," Bumpy said, conversationally. 1937. "Chateau Margaux. Must have cost you what, 40? 50. "Worth every penny for my brother," Ray said, but his voice cracked on the word brother. "Funny thing about French wine," Bumpy continued, still not drinking. "During the war, the Nazis occupied Bordeaux. They stole most of the good vintages. This bottle right here, it survived the occupation. Somebody hid it, protected it, kept it safe from people who wanted to take what wasn't theirs." Sal Benedetto shifted in his seat. His hand moved toward his jacket. Bumpy's eyes cut to him. "You got somewhere to be, S?" S froze. The jazz from the main room leaked through the door. A saxophone playing something slow and mournful, like a funeral march. Bumpy set the wine glass down without drinking. "You know what arsenic tastes like, Ray?" The room went cold. Ray's face drained of color. "Bump, I don't know what your bitter almonds," Bumpy interrupted. "Faint. Most people wouldn't notice it and wine this rich. Most people would take a sip, compliment the vintage, and be dead in 40 minutes. He stood up slowly. Every man in that room watched him. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. But I'm not most people. Ray's hand went to his waistband, where Bumpy knew he kept a .38. But Bumpy was faster. Not with a gun, with words. "Don't," Bumpy said softly. "It wasn't a threat, it was a fact. You pull that gun, S shoots you before you clear leather. That's the deal, isn't it? You poison me, they kill you, and it looks like we killed each other. Clean, simple, no blowback on the Genovese family." Ray's hand stopped. S. Benedetto was staring at Bumpy like he was seeing a ghost. "How did you?" S started. "How did I know?" Bumpy smiled. And it was the coldest smile anyone in that room had ever seen. "Because I've known for 2 weeks." He reached into his jacket. Every man in the room tensed. Hands went to guns. Bumpy pulled out an envelope. Not a gun. An envelope. He tossed it on the table in front of Ray. "Open it." Ray's hands trembled as he opened the envelope. Inside were photographs. His face went from white to gray. "That's you," Bumpy said calmly, "meeting with Sal Benedetto at the Riviera Lounge 3 weeks ago. That's you except in an envelope. That's you counting 30,000. He tossed another photograph. "That's your mama wearing that new fur coat. Nice coat. Shame where the money came from." Ray looked like he was going to be sick. "See, Ray, I've known about the meeting, known about the money, known about tonight." Bumpy picked up the wine glass. "You think I walked in here blind?" "I switched the glasses," Bumpy said simply. Ray's eyes went wide. He looked down at his own wine glass, the one he just raised for the toast, the one he hadn't drunk from yet. "No," Ray whispered. "Oh yes," Bumpy said. "The one you poured for me. That's the clean bottle. The one in your hand. That's the one with the arsenic. My people swapped them while you were busy greeting our Italian friends." Bumpy looked at Ray's glass. "Now drink." "Bump. Please. Drink," Bumpy said again. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of 15 years of brotherhood and 1 night of betrayal. Ray was shaken. The wine glass rattled in his hand. S. Benedetto jumped up. "Gun drone. Nobody's drinking anything. We're leaving." "Sit down, S," Bumpy said without looking at him. "You think you're in charge here?" S growled. Bumpy turned slowly to face him. "In Harlem, always." S's finger tightened on the trigger. "1 bullet, Johnson. That's all it takes." "1 bullet," Bumpy agreed. "And then what? You think you're walking out of Harlem alive after killing me? Every black man within 10 blocks heard you were here. every hustler, every runner, every shopkeeper. You shoot me, and you start a war you can't win. Vito Genovese doesn't run Harlem. He never has. He never will. He pulled out a phone, set it on the table. But if you don't believe me, why don't we call someone who can explain it to you? S's face went pale. Who? Bumpy dialed. The phone rang twice before someone picked up. Lucky, Bumpy said into the receiver. It's Bumpy Johnson. I got a situation here that needs your input. The room went absolutely silent. Lucky Luciano, the man who'd organized the 5 families, the man who turned the Italian mob into an empire, the man even Vito Genovese answered to. Bumpy listened for a moment, then spoke. I got 3 of Vito's boys here in Harlem. They paid $30,000 to have me killed. Now they're pointing guns at me, talking about walking out like nothing happened. He paused, listening. Uh-huh. That's what I thought. Bumpy looked at S. Lucky wants to talk to you. S took the phone like it was a snake. Boss. Whatever Lucky Luciano said in the next 30 seconds drained all the color from S's face. When he hung up, his hands were shaking. We're leaving, S said quietly. Not yet, Bumpy said. He sat back down, pulled out a cigarette, lit it slowly. Here's how this works, Bumpy said, exhaling smoke. A man's life in Harlem costs $30,000. At least that's what you paid Ray Ray. So now you're going to pay me $30,000 for your lives. S stared at him. You're extorting us. I'm giving you a choice, Bumpy corrected. I can kill all 3 of you right here, right now, and start a war that'll bleed both our families for years. Or you can pay me $30,000, the same amount you spent trying to kill me, and we walk away from this. No war, no bodies, just business. He leaned forward. What's it going to be, S? Your life for $30,000, or your pride for free? S looked at his 2 men. They both nodded. We'll get you the money, S said, through gritted teeth. You'll get it now, Bumpy said. I know you brought it for Ray Ray, his second payment. Hand it over. S reached into his coat, slowly pulled out an envelope, thick with cash. Bumpy didn't touch it, just nodded to one of his men, who took the envelope and counted it. 30,000, the man confirmed. Good. Now you can leave. S holstered his gun, started toward the door, stopped. Vito's not going to forget this, Bumpy smiled. Lucky told you to pay. You paid. That's the end of it. Unless Vito wants to explain to Lucky why he's starting a war over a failed hit. S and his men walked out. The door closed behind them. The room was silent for 5 seconds. Then Ray Ray started to drink. Not because he wanted to, because Bumpy was staring at him, and every man in that room was watching, and there was no way out. Ray Ray tilted the glass. The wine touched his lips. He drank. It took 7 minutes. First the sweating started, then the trembling. Then Ray Ray grabbed his throat, his eyes going wide, his mouth opening in a silent scream. Bumpy watched, didn't move, didn't speak, just watched the man who'd been his brother die from his own poison. Ray Ray collapsed onto the table. The photograph scattered, the wine glass shattered on the floor, and Bumpy Johnson counted $30,000 in cash while his oldest friend took his last breath. When it was over, Bumpy stood up, straightened his tie, took one last look at Ray Ray's body. A man's life is worth $30,000, he said quietly. Make sure everybody knows you cross Bumpy Johnson. It cost you everything, and I get paid either way. He walked out of Small's paradise that night, 30,000 lordless richer. Ray Ray Coleman died choking on betrayal. The Italians never tried to move heroin into Harlem again. And Lucky Luciano called Bumpy the next morning to say one thing. You handled that right. Respect. What happened in that back room on October 12th 1945 became legend in Harlem. Not because Bumpy killed a traitor, plenty of men did that, but because of how he did it. He turned an assassination into a payday. He turned a war into a business transaction. He made the Italians pay for the privilege of staying alive. No guns, no violence, just intelligence, patience, and the coldest form of justice anyone had ever seen. Raymond Coleman's name was never spoken in Harlem again. The $30,000 he was promised was buried with him. And the $30,000 Bumpy took from the Italians, he used it to buy 3 buildings in Harlem, gave them to widows whose husbands had died working the numbers. Because Bumpy Johnson wasn't just about power, he was about principle. And the principle was simple. You come for the king, you better not miss. And if you miss, you pay. That was Bumpy's raccoon. That was his code. That was his legacy. The back room of Small's Paradise stayed closed for 6 months after that night. When it finally reopened, nobody would sit at the table where Ray died. They say you can still smell the wine, still feel the weight of what happened. But what really stayed was the lesson in Harlem. Bumpy Johnson didn't just survive, he won every single time. If this story of betrayal, intelligence, and cold justice moved you, hit that subscribe button. Drop a like if you respect the way Bumpy turned a death trap into a payday. And comment below, what would you have done in Bumpy's position? Let me know.